This is Blake Temez with the Blake Temez podcast, where I speak as a Catholic layman to Catholic laymen about missional living, wisdom cultivation, and legacy building in service of Christ and his bride, the Church. Thanks for being here. Today, let's take a look at something called the man box. This is something I've just learned about through Aaron Wren's articles. He discusses the man box, which was created as a term by an organization called Equimundo in their study on being a young man in the US, the UK, and Mexico. Now, this is from Equimundo's website. It says, the norms of the man box are centered around 7 pillars of what real men, quote unquote, are supposed to be, which include self-sufficiency, acting tough, physical attractiveness, adhering to rigid gender roles, heterosexuality, sexual prowess, and using aggression to resolve conflicts. And the general framing of the study seems to be that young men need to be free from the man box so that they can be more favorable allies toward the goals of feminist organizations like Equimundo. At least that's the impression. I will admit that I would want to give a full reading to the report to understand the full intention, but that's what I've understood from Aaron Wren's treatment of the study. Now, Wren connects this way of framing masculinity that Equimundo has taken with the reason why a lot of conservative organizations, including the Church, if you're going to group the Church in that realm, fail to get the attention of young men when young men are turning to other online influencers in large numbers. And he suggests that it's because those online influencers treat men as important ends in their own right, not just as means. So these are Wren's words, that the influencers treat men as important ends in their own right, not just as means. Whereas again, Equimundo and other organizations like them treat men as a means to the ends of feminist goals or whatever progressive goals the organization in question has. And it's interesting to note the existence of studies like this because it shows a trend that there's a mainstream understanding that young men in general, but young men in particular, are not in a great state. Some of the highlights from Wren's article points out that regular pornography consumption by men is high at around 60% for all age levels. Many men have retreated into a virtual world, saying that their online life is more meaningful than their actual real world life, and that there is this gender gap in life expectancy, suicide, and educational attainment, with young women in general, having better outcomes in those areas than men do. And so it seems that across ideological divides, there's this recognition that there's a problem affecting men and boys overall, and something needs to be done about it. But as men living in the Church who want to reach out to young men, to mentor them, to help them achieve their goals, and just contribute to the betterment of them, I think it's key to remember not to treat anyone, including those young men, as means to an end, right? That the type of transformation that they need to undergo is for some ulterior motive that actually undercuts their potential. It's pointed out in the Wren article that Equimundo wants to redefine masculinity even at the expense of taking away men's sense of purpose. Again, these are Wren's words from the article. Because those who hold to Equimundo's dreaded man box have the highest sense of purpose in life, according to the survey. So you see what's happening there, that there's these set of characteristics that need to change so that men escape the man box, and yet those who are in the man box or who hold to it have the highest sense of purpose in life. And so you have to ask, are you going to be willing to trade those set of characteristics, even if not subscribing to them perfectly or wholly, right? And having some desire for nuance to them, maybe, but to discard them completely and see a sense of purpose in life go away with it. So that's something that we have to struggle with and work through, and just be aware of how our approach towards masculinity, how it's perceived, how young men perceive it, how the church perceives it, is a part of this larger system of cultural influences that we want to evaluate whether we're aligned with certain values and how we've gotten to that conclusion of thinking that this is a certain way forward, even at the expense of the well-being of men and of boys. So there's the conversation about the man box. If you look up the Institute for Family Studies, you can find Wren's article discussing it a bit more. And of course, you can find the man box study on Equimundo's site to get a closer look. So hopefully that introduced a new idea to you, greater awareness of what these conversations are like in the larger culture. And I encourage you to think creatively about what that means for your life as a man in the church and your ministry to other young men, or your life with your sons or other young men in your family. And let's keep the conversation going. So thanks for being here. Thanks for your time and attention, and God bless.